Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Jim Kleiber Show. Today is Monday, October 5th, 2020. We are still in 2020. A long weekend. I mean, a normal length weekend for most of our calendars, but a long one in terms of stuff that happened in the news. Perhaps a short one based on what happened in your life. Who knows? We all have different perspectives and different things going on in our lives, feeling different things and seeing the world differently. Just catch up on the news a little bit. President Trump was diagnosed with COVID. They say it would have been Friday morning at like 2 a.m. But there's uncertainty about when he was actually diagnosed or when he told the public. Whether he was diagnosed before and received positive tests before, or he told the public at the same time. We're not sure. He did a couple videos from Walter Reed Medical Center. He was airlifted to Walter Reed Medical Center in a helicopter. He showed videos and photos of him working. If you notice when he's looks like he was drawing with a big Sharpie in the middle of a blank paper. I don't know how much he was actually working, but he was giving the impression of working. And I found that interesting. What else did he do? Oh, he left yesterday. He left the hospital and did a little motorcade tour around the outside of the hospital, waving to people. And supposedly he was in a car that is hermetically sealed, meaning, to protect the president from any chemical attacks from the outside, but also to seal all the stuff on the inside. So people were talking about how dangerous it might be for the Secret Service employees who are driving him around. What else happened? He said he might be released from the hospital today, but we're not sure. He was also given an extra dose of steroids, but that's what they say. I mean, again, it comes back to how much we trust what's happening. But, yeah. So, I mean, we'll see what happens with that. Again, I hope he's well, but I also hope he's not lying about this. I don't know. I can't. When somebody's told me so many lies, it gets to the point where I don't know what to believe anymore from that person. And, yeah. It's happened to me in relationships before, but it's never gotten to the point where I couldn't trust that the president was giving honest information, or at least to the best of their extent. But when the presidential doctor says that Trump is like 250 pounds, he's obviously not 250 pounds. He's like 6'2", I think. 6'2", 250. Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so. He's probably closer to 300. But so when the doctor lies about little things like that, it's hard for me to take what the doctor says at face value. That's not the right cliche. It's hard for me to understand and believe what the doctor's saying. I don't think face value. I take everything at face value. It's the opposite of what I meant to say. I had some conversations with people on Twitter, and in general in life, people seem to distrust. Some people distrust Nancy Pelosi. Some people are angry at her for what she's done with, she got a haircut or she got her hair styled. They broke the law. She thinks she's above the law. Other people going after Biden, or other people on the more Democratic side thinking that they're above the law. And I've tried to get in conversations to say, okay, so fine, let's assume that those ones think they're above the law. Do you also believe that Trump is above the law? And it doesn't really work. I don't know. I keep bashing my head into these conversations, and part of me wants to step back and really go, why does this person believe this? What is this person feeling? What is going on in this person's life to get to that point? Some people have told me in some ways, they're like, oh, okay, there was a huge opioid epidemic in my town, or everyone lost their jobs because this plant closed, or alcohol and suicide is alcohol overdose and suicide is an all-time high, or et cetera, et cetera. Like there's a lot of other stuff going on, and then it gets projected on our political leaders. It's people say don't take things personally, but I think we take everything personally, and I think we take politics personally. I think our personal conflict we project onto politics. I was thinking about it more today, and I did a little research because I'm wearing a shirt that for many years I didn't recognize what it was. I thought it was, it's just a cool shirt. It's gray. It's got like some blue colors I like. But somebody said it's actually the building in Hiroshima, in Japan, Hiroshima, where the atomic bomb was dropped, like near the Hypo Center, I think they called it. I saw on Wikipedia. That was in 1945, so that's August of 1945, so that's just a little over 75 years ago when the U.S. dropped an atomic bomb on Japanese people. And got me thinking about how something like World War II started. How did it start in Europe? How did it start in Japan? I tried to look a little bit up of, what was going on emotionally in Japan after World War I. Why did it get to the point of World War II? In the quick search, I couldn't find too much, but I know I've studied a little bit about Germany, and just how I believe that many people in the country felt a lot of shame after losing World War I. I believe much of the country was destroyed in many ways, and so feeling shame about that. I believe the economy tanked, and so people just having maybe the fear and uncertainty about their jobs and their livelihoods, not to mention probably a lot of repressed grief from all the people who had died, fathers and brothers and uncles and things like this, friends and relatives. So just a lot of emotion in there. And I searched about loneliness and World War I, World War II, and I came across this article. I'm going to read a little bit from it. It's actually an article on a website. The website's called Epiphany Seattle, and the author is Reverend Doit L. Kahn, Jr. And I believe maybe it's a sermon as well, so there's an audio version of it. But I went to one point in it where it's talking about a book called The Origins of Totalitarianism by Hannah Arendt. And it quotes from there. So this is the woman that coined the term banality of evil, which she described as the inability to hear another voice either within your own head or from the outside community. And she attributed the banality of evil to loneliness. And so what she went on to say, how she introduced the book was, what prepares people for totalitarianism, what happens in the heart, the psyche, and the society that makes these things possible, is the fact that loneliness, once a borderline experience, usually suffered in marginal social conditions, like old age, becomes an everyday experience in the growing masses of our century. And she wrote this book in 1951, drawn from her experience as a Jew who fled Nazi Germany during the rise of Hitler. And so I just want to talk about that a little bit, how I think there's got to be a lot of loneliness going on in this country and around the world right now. And when we feel lonely, what do they say about loneliness? Loneliness is not about being alone. It's about being alone and wanting to be with others or craving intimacy with others. And so being alone and enjoying it, we call solace in English. This, solitude, solace, this idea of being alone and enjoying it can be very refreshing and very invigorating for many of us. And then at other times when we're alone and we don't want to be alone, it can be very frustrating and annoying and terrifying and paralyzing. And we could really crave for that connection with other people. So I can just imagine how rampant it might be right now. How many of us haven't had a lot of human contact or human touch over these last 6-7 months? How many of us have been interacting with the same people and getting into fights and actually going further and further apart from these people, farther and farther apart? How many of us are around people that don't get us, or we don't think they understand who we are? And the people who do, we have to have a Zoom call with them, and it's just not the same. How many of us are struggling with other things emotionally and just feeling all alone, like nobody understands what's going on, nobody gets us, nobody can empathize. I don't know. I think about some of the people I've interacted with on Facebook and Twitter and just read about or seen in the news, and I see them so angry at some people and so afraid of some people. It seems that way. And I just wonder really what's going on. I mean, at first I get angry and annoyed that they're so angry at people that I think are being honest. But when I dig into it, it's like, there's got to be more to this story. How many of these people lost their house, or lost their brother, or lost their sister, or lost their mother or father or kid to suicide, drug overdose, or because they left home because the person wanted to go to a big city, or the person went to a different country or to a different town, or maybe they moved to the farm, maybe they moved more to the rural area, or maybe they're still there but they're just not talking anymore. They got into a fight and the person just cut them off. Like maybe they blocked them on the internet so you can't text them or communicate with them over the internet, or maybe they're still in person, they just stonewall you, and so you try to interact, you ask them questions and they just say nothing, and you ask what's wrong and they say I'm fine, and they just respond I'm fine, leave me alone, I'm fine. They just reject all your attempts to try to bridge the relationship. How many of us got hurt 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago by somebody, and that pain still lingers in us? We still suffer as a result of the transgression that was committed back then. There was another quote in this article that I wanted to read. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Reverend Khan says, "What interested me most in the work of Arendt is not the context from which she developed her philosophical theories, but her conclusion that loneliness is the fertile soil that can lead to the ripping apart of a society, and that the antidote to loneliness is promises made to our neighbors within a culture of forgiveness." Culture of forgiveness. How many of us hold on to a grudge and hold resentment towards somebody for what they did to us in the past, and therefore hold a grudge or resentment towards anyone like them? So it could be a woman who may have lied to us about being pregnant, and therefore we hold resentment towards women in general. It could be a military officer who assaulted us, and so therefore we hold resentment towards all military officers or all government officials. It could be we lost somebody to a drug overdose, and so there we hold resentment towards the doctors who prescribed the drugs, and we hold resentment towards the politicians who failed to protect our child. Or maybe we hold a grudge or resentment against ourselves for failing to protect the person that we cared about, or for doing something that we knew was stupid. For example, being in a job and knowing that the industry is going to disappear, but not having the courage to leave the job and look for a new industry because it scared the crap out of us. And then afterwards getting so angry with ourselves for not having the courage to leave, and then losing our job and losing our house, and just being so mad at ourselves. What would it look like if we had a culture of forgiveness, where we forgave other people, but we also forgave ourselves? I think a lot of times when we talk about a culture of forgiveness, we talk about forgiving the other person. And typically we think, okay, well, if they apologize, then I will forgive them. I wonder what it would look like if we had a culture of apologies, culture of apologizing. Oh man, like genuine, honest, sincere apologies. I find that's one of the fastest ways to get to forgiveness, is to open up and show our remorse and show our suffering for what we did, our guilt for what we did, and to say that we're sorry. When I've seen it in my interactions, when I have the courage to do that in my relationships, it almost always starts to mend the relationship. What will happen a lot of times is that the other person will apologize in reciprocation. Oh, I'm sorry I said that to you. I feel really bad for what I said to you earlier. I can't imagine what it must have felt like to hear something like that. I'm sorry. The other person say, oh, no, it's okay. Either they go, it's okay, and they seem to open up and feel a lot better, or they will apologize in reciprocation. Yeah, and I'm sorry that I shut you off. I didn't mean to close off like that. I just, sometimes when I get too filled with emotion, I don't know what to do, and I don't want to say the wrong thing. I can't speak for all religions, as I didn't grow up with a specific religion, but I've learned about a few of them along the way. And I think one of the brilliant things I think it's a Catholic faith of confession, is the idea is to go in and apologize, is basically to admit one's guilt and to show one's remorse and to ask for forgiveness, or apologize, ask for forgiveness. And I love that. I love it. I think it can help us feel so much better to open up and do that. And it can also start the chain of them maybe opening up as well and showing where they feel guilty or feel bad or feel regretful. What if politics had a culture of apology and forgiveness, or a culture of confession and forgiveness, whatever we want to call it? Wow, what if politics had that, where we do something and we feel really bad for what happened, and we go up to the person, we say, I feel really bad for what I did. I'm sorry. The other person, this has happened to me sometimes. When I remember being at a co-working space, and I was talking with this one guy, and we were sitting down over lunch or whatnot, and somebody came up, and he just left the table and started talking to her. And, I thought, okay, well, he hadn't seen her in a long time. I was maybe a little annoyed by it, but not super annoyed. Just kind of like, okay, I mean, that's what happens. I just met the guy. I don't know him that well. And maybe he knows her for 10, 20 years. It's fine, But again, a slight annoyance, but not a big one. And he comes back and he's like, oh, I just want to, listen, I feel really bad. I went off. I just left our conversation. I didn't even introduce her to you. I just want to say I'm very sorry for doing that. I was like, huh? Like, it shocked me. I was like, what? Because again, it was such a, I didn't even realize that I was really that annoyed maybe until he apologized for it. But like, even then it was just a little tinge of annoyance. Mostly it was just like, this is whatever, it happens. And it shocked me because it's so often when we apologize to someone, we're feeling so bad about what we did. And the other person may not have even noticed what happened. Or if they noticed it, they didn't feel bad at all. They may have felt relieved. So maybe in that moment, I can't fully remember, maybe I felt relieved, like, okay, now I don't have to engage in the conversation. I can eat my sandwich quickly, or so, I can take a few more bites of my sandwich and then re-engage with the conversation. It could have been a peaceful moment for me because maybe my day was hectic and I sat down and immediately got in conversation and frustrated myself by like, oh, why are you in conversation again? You're supposed to take time to relax at lunch. So who knows? Who knows what the other person is feeling? But often when we open up and we apologize, we are expressing what we're feeling to the other person. That's my favorite apology. When I open up, say, I feel so bad for what I did. I can't imagine how it may have impacted you or frustrated you or this or that. I'm sorry. And the other person goes, I didn't even notice. Like, it's totally fine. Or actually, I was grateful that you did that because I had some time to relax and be by myself. And you're like, oh, really? Because we can get so stuck in our own heads knowing how the other person is feeling. Oh, goodness. We can project with absolute certainty what the other person is feeling, why they're feeling it, and everything related to it. Yeah. I don't know. So as it relates to politics, I think politics is, yes, it causes a lot of things that we feel, but I think more than anything, it's just it is a result or an outcome of the things that we're feeling based on what's happening in our lives, in our personal lives. So how to help it? I remember one guy who'd studied a lot with Buddhism. I can't remember his name, but he was talking about what loving your enemy meant. And he said basically love is to wish somebody to feel well and to be well. And for me, it's that. It's focusing on somebody's emotional well-being, emotional health, and just in caring and having concern for their emotional well-being. And so I think when it comes down to politics, I can jump into so much of like, oh no, but this is right and that is wrong. And why do you believe this? And why do you believe that? How can you believe something like that? Are you crazy? Et cetera, instead of going, what is this person feeling? Are they excited? Are they angry? Are they afraid? Why are they afraid? Why are they excited? Why are they angry? What's causing them to feel so angry? What are they thinking about? What kind of conflict do they have in their life? Do they have any grief that they haven't expressed? Who are they worried is going to get hurt? Are they worried they're going to get hurt? Are they worried somebody else in their life is going to get hurt? What dreams do they have? And really just connecting to those emotions. Because when I do that, I realize I'm talking to a human being that is struggling just like me. And they may be looking at me and being like, well, I can't believe he has such absurd beliefs. Wow, he is so crazy. I can't believe he would think something so stupid like that. And I think in those situations, I just want them to connect to me as a human and realize I'm struggling. I don't know what I'm doing. And so I want to get better at extending that grace to them. and extending that grace to you. I mean, you're watching the show and maybe you're frustrated, maybe you're excited, maybe you're confused, maybe you're using this to get away from everything that's bothering you in life. Maybe you're using this to relax for a moment. Maybe you're using this because you want to make fun of somebody, or like you want to take out your frustration, your anger at something. I don't know. But I just know most of us are suffering more than we appear to be suffering. We suffer more than we say we suffer. And yeah, I don't know. I think in this time of political political what? Political acceleration, let's put it that way, because there's an election coming up in the US and because of COVID-19 and things like this. I think in this time of political acceleration, it can help many of us to feel less afraid or less uncertain and anxious, to just pause and realize that the person we're talking to is feeling a lot of things, and that we are feeling a lot of things. Man, I can't tell you how many dreams I have had about being around people and then having the realization, oh gosh, I'm not wearing my mask. Oh no, I hope I didn't get infected. Oh gosh, like so many dreams of being so excited to be around people and then so angry and frustrated with myself for not paying attention to what happens with coronavirus. It almost reminds me of those dreams that I still have sometimes, where I wake up late and I go to school and I forgot to do the homework assignment, or I missed the test. It's like, I'm not even in school anymore. I think I had one last night where I was worrying about my grades. Yeah, I think I was going through high school a second time or something, and I was taking all these different classes. But I was, that's exactly what it was. And I was worried about the grades that I was going to get. But I said to myself, no, but you already graduated one time. And when you graduated, you got a 4.0. So that's all that matters. They're only going to look at the one grades, the first time you went through. That's all that matters. But I was still so stressed. And gosh, I graduated from high school 17 years ago. Still dreaming about that stuff. So how has that impacted me? How much stress and pressure do I put on myself to have these perfect grades and still do it today? And how much of that, you could say maybe like some micro trauma, do I carry from being in high school and pushing myself so hard to get good grades? And then how much of that gets projected out towards people who don't look like they're pushing themselves hard to get good grades? How much does that get projected towards politicians who look like they're not doing the homework, or look like they're not trying hard to pass the test, or who look like they're not doing the studying or the research? How much of that pressure I put on myself back 17 years ago is stuff that I'm still putting on other people, especially in the political space? And how would it change if I renegotiated that relationship with myself? If I forgave myself for getting a bad grade? Or if I apologized for putting so much pressure on myself? Wow. So I just say this all to you to remind you that there are a lot of emotions in politics, and a lot of them come from places that we wouldn't think were political at all, come from a lot of personal experiences in our lives. And what would society look like if we started paying attention more to how we were feeling and other people were feeling, instead of judging people for what they were saying and how they were behaving. Anyways, so in conclusion, I believe the personal is political, the political is personal, and we can pay more attention to how we're all human beings, just feeling different things these days, whether we want to or not. Oh, that being said, I'm going to sign off with this beard, and glad to have you back on board this Monday. Good luck. Hope to talk to you tomorrow.